live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russia-Ukraine failed to agree ceasefire in the second round of talks, but agreed to swap more prisoners of war. Trump says open to meeting Russian and Ukrainian counterparts in a push for a peace deal. US President Donald Trump rules out allowing Iran to enrich uranium under any nuclear deal. Iran demands guarantee of lifting sanctions in nuclear talks. India's global outreach under Operation Sindoor intensifies. All-party delegations engage with key international leaders to underscore the nation's unwavering stand against terrorism. Polls open for South Korea's snap presidential election. The country is voting to choose a new leader after ex-president Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached over his abortive declaration of martial law. And in sports, Royal challengers Bengaluru and Punjab Kings look to end their 17-year title drought as they face off in the IPL 2025 final in Ahmedabad. So delegations from Russia and Ukraine met barely for an hour in the Turkish city of Istanbul for only the second such round of negotiations since March 2022, without any breakthrough on proposed ceasefire. Although the atmosphere was subdued and dialogue brief, the talks did yield an agreement to conduct a new prisoner exchange. Ukraine said that Moscow had rejected its call for an unconditional ceasefire. It offered instead a partial truce of 2 to 3 days in some areas of the front line. The two sides also agreed to hand over the bodies of 6,000 killed soldiers. Russia will only agree a full ceasefire if Kiev gives up big new chunks of territory and accepts limits on the size of its army. Moscow has also demanded a ban on Kiev joining NATO, limiting Ukraine's military and ending Western military support. Ukraine has repeatedly rejected the Russian conditions as tantamount to surrender. The two countries last held direct talks on May 16th in Istanbul, their first face-to-face negotiations since March 2022. During that meeting, the two sides agreed to exchange 1,000 prisoners each, marking the largest prisoner swap since the start of the conflict. US President Donald Trump is open to meeting his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts in Turkey after the two sides failed on Monday to make headway towards an elusive ceasefire. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan proposed that Russian President Vladimir Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Trump all come together for the third round later this month in either Istanbul or Ankara. Ukraine again on Monday proposed holding more talks before the end of June, but believes only a meeting between Zelensky and Putin can resolve the many issues of contention. Putin has thus far refused such a meeting. But Zelensky has said he is willing, underlining that key issues can only be resolved at the leaders' level.
Gerek Sayın Vladimir Putin'i, gerekse Zelenski'yi aynı şekilde İstanbul veya Ankara'da bir araya getirmek, hatta Sayın Trump'ı da bunların yanına almak, eğer kabul buyururlarsa ben de kendileriyle bu buluşmada bir araya gelir ve böylece İstanbul'u adeta bir barış merkezi haline getirelim istiyorum. Bunun girişimlerini de şu son buluşmadan sonra adımını atacağız.
Meanwhile, Zelensky said in an online news briefing on Monday that his delegation at the talks in Istanbul gave a list of nearly 400 children it wanted Russia to return home, but that the Russian delegation agreed to work on returning only 10 of them.
Далі, що стосується дітей, ми передали список з майже 400 дітьми русським. Вони нам запропонували щось в цьому напрямку напрацювати до 10 дітей. Ось це їх бачення таке щодо гуманітарних питань.
At the UN, spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric hoped that talks could lead to lasting and comprehensive peace in line with the UN Charter.
Let's get to an agreement. I do want to add that obviously we hope that the talks that concluded in Istanbul could lead to a full, immediate and unconditional ceasefire as the first step towards a just, lasting and comprehensive peace in line with UN Charter, international law and relevant UN resolutions.
US President Donald Trump on Monday ruled out allowing Iran to enrich uranium under any nuclear deal between the foes, as Tehran defended what it said was its peaceful pursuit of fuel for power generation. Uranium enrichment has remained a key point of contention in 5 rounds of talks since April to ink a new accord to replace the deal with major powers that Trump abandoned during his first term in 2018. As per the latest proposal that Washington had sent Tehran on Saturday, would allow limited low-level uranium enrichment on Iranian soil for an amount of time that has yet to be determined. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with the UN nuclear watchdog's chief, Rafael Grossi, in Cairo and said if the goal is to deprive Iran of its peaceful activities, then certainly no agreement will be reached. The remarks came after Grossi of the International Atomic Energy Agency on Monday called for more transparency from Iran, following a leaked report that showed Tehran had stepped up uranium enrichment. The IAEA report showed that Iran ramped up production of uranium enriched up to 60%, close to the roughly 90% level needed for atomic weapons. US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will likely speak this week, days after Trump accused China of violating an agreement to roll back tariffs and trade restrictions. Trump said on Friday he was sure that he would speak to Xi. China said in April that the two leaders had not had a conversation recently. Trump reignited strains with China last week when he accused China of violating a deal that had led both countries to temporarily reduce huge tit-for-tat tariffs. The discussion would follow a series of recent flare-ups between Washington and Beijing that threatened to derail a tentative trade agreement between the two economic superpowers. Harvard University asked a federal judge to issue a summary judgment ruling to unfreeze $2.5 billion in funding blocked by President Donald Trump's administration, which Harvard said was illegal. Harvard's filing in the U.S. District Court in Boston said that it had received 957 orders since April 14th to freeze funding for research pertaining to national security threats, cancer and infectious diseases, and more since the country's oldest and wealthiest school rejected a White House list of demands. Trump has said he is trying to force change at Harvard and other top-level universities across the U.S. because, in his view, they have been captured by leftist, quote, woke thought and become bastions of anti-Semitism. An all-party Indian parliamentary delegation led by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor thanked Brazil for its continued support to India in its fight against terrorism as it met with the head advisor to the Brazilian president to brief him on New Delhi's resolute response to the Pahalgam terror attack.
Vice Foreign Minister and her team were very sympathetic, warm. I would even say the atmosphere in the meeting was tremendously warm and friendly. And the main purpose for us was to ensure that our message was understood and there would be a feeling of the importance of solidarity in the struggle against terrorism. And that we got.
The delegation also met Brazil's acting foreign minister, Maria Laura de Rocha. They discussed recent events leading to Operation Sindoor and India's firm resolve against terrorism. The delegation also appreciated Brazil's understanding and support for India's security concerns. The Group 4 delegation, led by Shiv Sena MP Shrikant Shinde, met with the Speaker of the House of Representatives of Liberia, Richard Nabge Koon, and the group of representatives. The Shiv Sena MP highlighted the strong ties between the two nations and underlined India's long-standing fight against terrorism.
All the nations should come together in the fight against this terrorism. And as we went to all these nations, UAE, Sierra Leone, DR Congo and Liberia, all the nations assured and were very positive that they will stand with India in these tough times and also in this battle against terrorism.
BJP MP Basuri Swaraj also reaffirmed India's strong stand against terrorism.
Terrorism is not a regional problem. This is the time when the world needs to stand tall together and needs to call out morally those nations like Pakistan that are sponsoring terrorism. What happened on 22nd of April was a barbaric attack on humanity.
After wrapping up their five-nation visit, the all-party delegation led by DMK MP Kanimuri Karunanidhi will be reaching Delhi on Tuesday afternoon from Spain. DD India's Dibyendu Mondal spoke to the DMK MP in Madrid about the outcome of the visit and what the delegation overall achieved in this visit. Listen in.
As the delegation completes its five-nation visit on Operation Sindoor and what India had faced on the 22nd of April in the Pahalgam attack, I'm joined by the leader of this delegation and DMK MP, Kanimuri ma'am. What was the talks like in Spain?
No, it was very reassuring, and I think the foreign minister is already in touch with the Minister of External Affairs, Mr. Jaishankar in India, and he seemed to be very positive and supportive about what is happening, and already they've condemned what happened in Pahalgam and the terrorist attack. We also got the opportunity to explain that though Spain has been subjected to many terror attacks, the difference between what happens in India and what has happened in Spain is that what happens in India is sponsored by another country. The cross-border terrorism has been sponsored by another country, by Pakistan, and these terrorists are trained there. And they also, we've made it very clear that we cannot negotiate with somebody who's sponsoring terror.
How has the experience been here when you have come and met multiple countries, multiple different think tanks, leaders, senators from different countries, bringing the voice of India?
Just the fact that a member of parliament from the opposition party is leading the delegation, and the majority of us are from opposition parties, and there's just one member from the BJP. That itself is a message to the world that India stands as one, and I think in many countries people have, including Spain, they are surprised that that this has been possible.
How were the responses in all the countries that you've been? All are of course friends of India, but despite that, how has the responses been from different countries?
No, I think it's given an opportunity to clarify if they had doubts, and also that we come in person to meet them and to explain ourselves and also to reach for support. Response has been very heartwarming.
This delegation is taking a message for 1.4 billion people that the world stands united against terrorism, and they have been able to convince all the people that they have met, both in the government, intellectual and think tanks, that India stands united at this hour, irrespective of political opinions and differences. With camera person Shailendra Chauhan, this is Dibyendu Mondal from Spain in Madrid for DD India.
Further, an all-party delegation led by Bharatiya Janata Party MP Ravi Shankar Prasad met India friendship groups of the Labour Party in the United Kingdom to present India's united stance against terrorism. The delegation reaffirmed India's steadfast commitment to tackling terrorism with determination and highlighted that terrorism continues to endanger global stability and called for stronger cooperation to eliminate this shared threat in pursuit of lasting peace, security and the collective good of humanity. Both sides underscored the importance of continued dialogue to foster mutual understanding and expressed a shared commitment to strengthening cooperation and engagement between the Labour Party and India. The Group 7 delegation of Indian parliamentarians led by Nationalist Congress Party SP leader Supriya Sule met Egyptian lawmakers and conveyed India's firm and principled position against terrorism. The Indian side highlighted concerns around cross-border terrorism, especially that emanating from Pakistan.
India, 5 weeks ago, India's soul was hurt. And as you are all aware, what happened in Pahalgam 5 weeks ago. It came as a shock to all of us, but today in Egypt we have come as proud Indians who are going to rally together to fight terrorism anywhere in the world. So we seek your support.
ये केवल इजिप्ट में नहीं, ये आप दुनिया भर के देशों में देखोगे, बहुत जगह आपको भारत की सॉफ्ट पावर की ताकत नजर आती है। बहुत सारे लोग जब आपकी भाषा को भी नहीं समझते, उसके बावजूद आपकी फैन फॉलोइंग उन देशों में कितनी ज्यादा है।
You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum defends the country's first judicial election despite just 13% voter turnout on Sunday. And the flood situation in the Indian state of Assam worsens. Shribhumi is the worst hit district. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. On to South Korea now. Polls have opened for a new president to succeed conservative Yoon Suk-yeol. Millions are voting in a snap election triggered by former president's impeachment over his failed martial law bid. The opposition's Lee Jae-myung is the frontrunner, and the ruling party's Kim Moon-so, a former member of Yoon's cabinet, is trailing him. Leading candidates ended 3 weeks of official campaigning late on Monday, crisscrossing the country before converging on Seoul for final rallies as they vowed to put months of turmoil behind them and breathe new life into an ailing economy. The election has been shaped by the fallout from Yoon's brief but disastrous move in December, which triggered divisive protests and months of political chaos. The new president faces a polarized country, businesses anxious over US tariffs, and an unpredictable ally in Donald Trump. A Chinese commerce chamber has voiced disappointment and concern after the EU supported a proposal restricting Chinese medical suppliers' access to public contracts, urging the bloc to reconsider its stance. The chamber called for a reassessment of the need and long-term consequences of the approved restrictive measures, emphasizing its commitment to ongoing dialogue with key EU stakeholders. According to EU diplomats, EU governments have supported a European Commission proposal to impose restrictions on Chinese medical device suppliers' participation in public contracts, following concerns that EU companies were denied fair access to China's public tenders. Mongolian Prime Minister Oyun Erdene resigned on Tuesday after losing a confidence vote among lawmakers. The secret ballot followed days of protests in the capital, Ulaanbaatar, against alleged corruption. Oyun Erdene said that he was honored to serve Mongolia during challenging times, including the pandemic, wars, trade tariffs, following the announcement of the vote result in Parliament. He will remain as caretaker Prime Minister until his successor is appointed within 30 days. Since Oyun Erdene assumed power in 2021, Mongolia's ranking in Transparency International's Corruption Perceptions Index has declined significantly. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum defended the country's first judicial election on Monday, despite reports of only a 13% voter turnout in Sunday's election. The event was met with criticism from opposition groups, who expressed concerns that it could undermine the balance of powers. Sheinbaum estimated that around 30 million of around 100 million eligible voters casted ballots to elect around 2,600 judges and magistrates, including all 9 Supreme Court justices. Counting is set to conclude on June 15th. Sheinbaum called the process a complete success, citing a free vote and a frugal campaign at a morning press conference. Voting in Mexico is not mandatory and there is no minimum turnout required to legitimize an election.
Bien y de buenas. Bueno, pues esta es la información. Cerca de 13 millones de mexicanos y mexicanas participaron el día de ayer en la elección al Poder Judicial. Más del doble de la participación en la votación del juicio a expresidentes. En mi caso pensé, si vota el mismo número de personas que votaron para el primer ejercicio de consulta, que fue el de los expresidentes, pues es un muy buen resultado. Y resulta que votó el doble, 13 millones de personas que salieron a votar por el Poder Judicial.
The flood situation in India's northeastern state of Assam has significantly worsened, with Shribhumi emerging as the worst-hit district, followed by Cachar and Nagaon. Devastating rains have damaged major roads, disrupting connectivity. The death toll has now risen to 6. The India Meteorological Department, IMD, issued orange alerts for all 6 northeastern states and a yellow alert for Arunachal Pradesh. Heavy to very heavy rainfall is expected today at isolated places across Assam, Meghalaya, Nagaland, Mizoram and Tripura. Arunachal Pradesh is likely to experience heavy rainfall accompanied by thunderstorms and lightning. Currently, 10 rivers in the region are flowing above their danger levels. More than 1,200 villages and 65 revenue circles across 22 districts are submerged under flood waters. Shribhumi district has been severely impacted, with around 1.9 lakh people affected, followed by Nagaon and Lakhimpur. Rescue operations are ongoing round the clock, with the State Disaster Response Force, SDRF, Inland and Water Transport, Fire and Emergency Services and local administrations actively involved in the process. So far, 122 medical teams have been deployed and SDRF boats have rescued over 700 people and 130 animals. And on to some sporting action now. One last match awaits to crown a new IPL champion as Ahmedabad is set to host the grand tussle between Royal Challengers Bengaluru and Punjab Kings on Tuesday. Both teams lock horns for one final time in IPL 2025 with an aim to end their 17-year-long title drought. More in our next report.
The stage is set for the finale of the Indian Premier League 2025. It's the Royal Challengers Bengaluru who will be locking horns with Punjab Kings at Ahmedabad. RCB booked spot in the final after getting better off Punjab in the Qualifier 1, while Punjab Kings got a second chance in Qualifier 2, where they defeated Mumbai Indians. PBKS and RCB had finished number 1 and 2 in the league stage with 9 wins, 4 defeats and 1 no result each in 14 games. There was very little difference between their net run rates too. While PBKS had defeated RCB in Bengaluru, RCB won the reverse fixture in Mullanpur, while Rajat Patidar's Bengaluru were flawless in away conditions, becoming the first team to win all 7 away games in the league stage of an edition. The Kings were clinical in managing defeats, as Iyer's side never endured 2 defeats in succession. PBK's success in IPL 2025 has revolved around their uncapped Indian players, while RCB have traditionally been the home of the game's biggest superstars. They have shed that persona this time. Their captain Rajat Patidar has 4 international caps to his name. Their vice-captain Jitesh Sharma 9. RCB, who finished runners-up in 2009, 2011 and 2016, will be appearing in their 4th IPL final. PBKs have been in an IPL final only once before, in 2014, when they were known as Kings 11 Punjab and lost to Kolkata Knight Riders. Their captain Shreyas Iyer is the first IPL player to lead 3 different teams to the finals. He was captain of Delhi Capitals in 2020 final and led KKR to the title in 2024. Both teams will now set out to end their 17-year-long title drought when they clash for one final time in IPL 2025 final. One team will bask in the ecstasy of victory, while the other will endure the agony of near-miss heartbreak. Sports Desk, DD India.
And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.